So, Goody, big week coming up off a shorter break against Carlton. What's the atmosphere around the group after the loss on Saturday?
Yeah, obviously very similar to the way that we ended the game. Obviously, there was a level of frustration in terms of how we executed, certainly with ball in hand, but there's also a bit of perspective about where we sit and the opportunities that present in front of us. You know, we're in a pretty strong position from where we sit, and you know, we're certainly aiming to play our best footy as the year goes on. So that hasn't changed for us, although we would like to win. You know, we've lost by a combined total of 11 points in 2 weeks. So you know, we're not that far off, and we'll certainly keep perspective internally about where we need to get better.
Simon, Clayton Oliver looked pretty good. Looked like he was leading pretty good at training yesterday. Can you give an update on where you think he is ahead of Friday night?
Yeah, look, he's progressing really well. He's working through those stages. He won't play, you know, but we're really confident that he'll play the week after. So, you know, he's still an important player for us to take a really big risk, and Friday night would be a risk. So, you know, he's progressing really well. We get a pretty extended break the week after, so he'll definitely play the week after.
Simon, the forward line doesn't seem to be functioning anywhere near its peak. How do you go about rectifying that, and do you make changes at that end of the field?
Yeah, look, I think, you know, if you look at where we sit, I think we're number one for scoring. So scoring certainly hasn't been an issue. But you know, in terms of the forward line mix, we're continuing to look at ways where we can maximise both ends of the ground from a personnel perspective. So we'll continue to have a look at that. But as I said, you know, scoring hasn't been our biggest issue. You know, the last 2 weeks, you know, we played a really strong defensive team in Fremantle, and Port Adelaide was a really wet night at Adelaide Oval. So, you know, as I said, we need to keep perspective in where we're at. We're the number one scoring team. We'll continue to look at how we get better, and you know, the mix of that is one of those things. But you know, it's certainly not something that's really you know, at the forefront of my mind and causing me huge concerns. As I said, scoring's not our biggest issue in the game right now.
Simon, has Luke Dunstan a chance to come back in this week? Is he someone who could add something straight away to your midfield, or are you missing Clary?
Look, he's a chance to play. He's been out with a medial ligament strain, so you know, he'll be back playing of some form this week. So you know, he's gone through a sort of a 4 or 5 week rehabilitation process. So he probably needs a bit of footy under his belt before he's available for AFL footy. But he's certainly someone that, you know, that can certainly help our midfield as the time goes on.
Simon, you make the point that you're the highest scoring team this season. Christian Salem was interesting yesterday. He spoke about how out of the Fremantle game, he thought conversion seemed to be an issue. You know, sort of making the most of your chances. What were your thoughts on that coming out of Freo and heading into the Carlton game?
Yeah, look, I think I spoke extensively post-game that we produced a lot of stats that would indicate that we'd win a game of footy. You know, expected score.
Yeah.
You know, we won entry, one time and half, and we had, you know, opportunities in front of goal to execute. And in the end, we just didn't take the shots that we needed to take and hit, and that impacted the scoreboard and obviously impacted the results. So, you know, it hasn't been a major issue for us throughout the year. You know, our goal kicking and our ability to hit the scoreboard has been strong. You know, on the weekend, we just didn't execute the way that we would have liked with the ball in the front half of the ground, and we didn't get the score that we were looking for to win a game of footy. And you know, in the end, when the stats look in your favour but you don't win the game of footy, that's why it becomes frustrating. So, and obviously the narrative shifts with result, and we understand that.
Just with your opponent Carlton this week, there's a lot of pressure and expectation on them internally and externally. Do you have to be sort of wary of the kind of environment they're going to try and create on Friday night?
Look, yeah, I can't comment for Carlton. You know, they're their own footy club. All I can focus on is us and our preparation and getting the best out of our group, and that's what we're aiming to do. We know it's going to be a pretty hot game of footy. It always is against Carlton. You know, they're the number one contested team in the competition. So, you know, we know what they're going through. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. My main focus is on our group, getting them prepared for the battle and getting them prepared to play their best footy, and that's all we're focused on this week.
Chris Scott made some interesting comments last night on Fox Footy Sign about you know, the tackling and how they're viewed at the match review panel. Do you think I suppose the rules around it are murky at best?
they're becoming clearer. You just can't take a guy to ground with any force at all. And that's become really clear in the game. I think we're up to 25 to 30 guys that have been cited now in the last 6 or 7 weeks. So it's becoming really clear the protection of the head, the ability to tackle. We're training it differently already. Ability to take guys to ground in a nice, safe manner. And I think everyone will adjust. We're going through a process right now, as we have done with a lot of things in the game before, where we need to modify things and get things better. And as I said, we're starting to train it. We've had our own experiences in this space. So we as an industry need to do it better. That's the information we're getting from the AFL.
But when players have played a certain way for 20 years or more, how hard is it to change the way they go about things in such a short space of time?
Yeah, it's difficult, and that's why you're seeing at the moment that there's guys that are, you'd say, they're unlucky because they have trained a certain way for a number of times. So that's why internally and out at training, we are training different techniques to make sure we do it the right way, and that will take some time. And in the meantime, we'll probably have a number of guys that will get suspended along the journey inadvertently by accident. So we also understand that as well, but the information that we're getting from the AFL is really clear, and the MRO, that the protection of the head is critical. If you tackle in this manner, you run the risk of suspension. So we've got to take that information on and do it better.
Last couple, thanks guys.
Simon, much has been made, and you may well have spoken about this after the game, much has been made of sort of last year, the loss to Freo sort of seemed to precipitate something. What are your thoughts as to how you are positioned midway through this season compared to what obviously went down last year?
Oh, it's funny, when you get to the same stage and you play the same team, everyone's minds go back to certain stages of season. We're in a different year, and ultimately you get judged by what happens at the end of the year. We've mapped out our whole year to play and maximise our best footy at the back end of the year. We're well positioned in terms of where we want to be. We've certainly got areas of growth that we need to work on, like any team, and we're not the finished product. So we're going to continue to grow and get better and really forge ahead and try and play our best footy as the year goes on, and that's where we sit. But we don't take our minds back to last year. Last year's, in a lot of ways, irrelevant to us. This is a new season, a new opportunity, and as I said, we've mapped everything out to play our best footy as the year goes on. So only time will tell. It's I can't sit here and tell you what's going to happen and how we're going to go about it and how we're going to be perceived by the end of the year. I can only go about how we go our week to week and what we're trying to achieve.